Good evening. I call to order the Monroe Public Schools Board of Education work session. Today is Tuesday, February 10th, 2026, and the time is 5:30. Jamie, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Hack.
Here.
Miss Myers.
Here.
Mr. Sabadini.
Here.
Mrs. Tarasi.
Here.
Mrs. Vincent.
Here.
Mrs. Williams.
Here.
Will you please stand for the pledge?
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin, please note that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. There are two cameras in use this evening, one focused on the Board of Education and another one that may be used during any public commentary or presentations. By participating in this meeting, you acknowledge that you may be captured on video. Thank you for your understanding and for joining us tonight. If you do wish to speak to the board, there are forms there as you enter the door that you can fill out and hand to our administrative assistant, Jamie. Next up is discussion items. I'll turn it over to Superintendent Shaw.
All right, well, good evening, everybody. So our first item is a 26-27 calendar conversation. And this one is in regards to looking at what half-days to full-day PDs may look like. And so what we've given to you, and Cindy's going to go over it, is the scope of what kind of goes into our calendar work. And so we're going to be talking to you about options and want your input on it. So Cindy, would you like to please start?
Yes, I would. Thank you for allowing us to talk about the calendar for the 26-27 school year. I have done this calendar now, this is my 8th time. And each time, it seems that the instructional days remain about the same, the instructional hours do, but there are other things that happen. Bargaining agreements happen with people and different things. So this calendar here is different this year because of Labor Day being late. And we have the start of the year and Labor Day. The reason why it is not automatic that we go back at the pre-Labor Day, we don't start then, is because of the travel industry. About 15 years ago, they changed how we should wait and start school after Labor Day because of the recreational, they had a big campaign, Come See Michigan, and that everybody's going up north to hunt or whatever. And it automatically doesn't happen. We've started after Labor Day, but it worked out nice the way the June ended. But if we would not start after Labor Day this year, if we would start before, we would get out about the first week of June. And that's really where we like to be, because after that, we have attendance is a big deal. We could never end on a Monday. They would never come back. So we are going, in this conversation, we're going to talk about if we are going to take the option of doing a formal waiver, which goes through our ISD. And the tourism impact is really a consideration about not letting us go or letting us go. And it does have to be submitted before we start it has to be adopted before we start asking for adoption of our calendar, which we are working with the teacher group in a couple weeks.
Yeah. So what I need you to do is kind of just go through, these are the requirements per the state of Michigan. So this page, these two pages back to back are the requirements. So for example, we have to have a minimum of 180
80 days.
1,098 hours.
Yep.
Requirement starting after Labor Day, forgiven days, how many were allotted. Then, example, if we go past that, number of days. And
The forgiven days. We get to up to 6 forgiven days or hourly equivalent. Their weather, power outages, heating failures, counted without makeup. We don't have to do anything with those. Currently, for this school year, we have 5. All buildings have been out for 5. Orchard has been out an additional day because they had a major power line.
flood.
Oh, a flood.
It was flooded.
Water. Well, there had to be some there had to be
He
some
was stranded.
electricity involved. Yeah. So that's huge. You can ask for additional forgiven days, up to 3. It has to be approved by the state superintendent, and it has to be submitted before the school year ends. Professional development can only be counted if it is aligned to the district improvement plan, and 75% of teacher attendance is required to our professional development counting as instruction. Our PD hour limits for a month are 10 hours total before the first student day and after the last student day combined. And then from there out, 10 hours per calendar month. PD replacement of student time is very limited. State assessment days, that really doesn't reduce or do anything to our hours. Virtual instruction was eliminated this year. They used to give 15 days allowance for virtual. And then, like I said a little bit ago, the teacher contract alignment. We meet it takes us a whole day after we get our parameters from the board. And it complies with the teacher workday limits, the PD days offered, the non-instructional days, and not reducing any contract rights.
So,
Phew.
yeah.
Let's go back to the beginning.
So more to come right now. So we currently have 181 days on our calendar. That's staff days, 180 student days. Okay. Inside of there, we build in a whole lot of half days this current year, as you're very much aware. So moving ahead into this next year's calendar, what we would propose to the Board of Education is that if you want to add 1 day of professional development, so for example, go from 181 staff days, 182, it's going to cost about $130,000 to make that happen. Now, understand it's negotiated because their days are a negotiable item. So the other mechanism is that we can look at using instructional time as PD. And what would happen there is right now we have half days. And so if you imagine like today and tomorrow are both half days of instruction and we have PD in the afternoon, that's 3 hours of instructional time each day. What you'd have then is a full day of instruction. So you still have your 6 hours, full day of PD. So you would still live within the mechanism of 1,112 hours. That's how many instructional hours that we carry a year. Minimum is 1,098. We carry 1,112. So what we would ask for is if we can stay within the parameters of staying on or at 1,112 instructional hours, can we build in and use the instructional time as PD? So what would happen in the past is that you could use, instead of having 180 student days, you might have 178 student days, but the hours is what matters. So as long as we stay at the hour number that the kids are here with us, you won't lose instructional time. It's the number of days that they're present. What that would do is your trade-off is then you've already incurred the cost of your staff to be here. You actually see a bit of a savings because you don't have transportation running, you don't have support staff and others in your buildings. So and then the other parameters that we've already been building in is looking at the calendar, making sure that should we move to more full day schedules, is that our full day PD would align to either a break, like we given an example before, Thanksgiving falls and that Monday after. The other is we have 2 work days in there, one in the fall, one in the spring. So on those days, you'll have a half day PD in the morning, work day in the afternoon. So that way it's still a full day for the students. So that way it doesn't impact the families. Work to see if we can attach that also to a break that's already predetermined. So that way then the parents, when it comes to it, the vast majority of our days would be full days off for students where the PD is built in. And then it's attached to breaks that the parents are already seeing coming, rather than all of a sudden, hey, here's this 1 day. So that's kind of what we're, in a big nutshell, there. The other big one is, and this is this year and next year, we are fortunate, we do have 2 full weeks at Christmas, but Labor Day starts a week later. Well, it's a week later this year and next. And if we stay in the same practice we've been in, we'll get out roughly June 15th. Okay?
And now we're getting out June 12th,
This year is June 9th,
10th.
10th?
10th. Is it it's the 10th.
10th,
It is.
yes.
Last year was the 12th.
Yes.
Okay.
So what we would propose is that, and many of the schools I know in Monroe County and other areas are looking at running with pretty much the same calendar we have this year. So if we started before Labor Day, it would be the exact same Monday date that we started this year on. Because if Labor Day was back the 1 week where it had been. So that's the one ask, is that's a bigger variable there. And so we do want your perspective on both professional development as instructional time, as long as we stay at the 1,112 hours. And then the other part is your opinions on starting before Labor Day, which would be the same date that we started on this year. So I think that was like September, or,
Yeah. What,
let me get my calendar up right here
how
really
many
quick.
days before?
It was September 1st, and so it would be literally the same
What day would it start
date.
at?
It would be,
Get to the September.
it was September 1st was the Monday, September 2nd, thank you.
So it would be September,
First.
Jamie, September 2nd is our first day?
This past year it was.
Yep.
Okay.
So this year would be August 31st, which is that Monday,
Monday, okay.
which is last year. So it's still the same exact week there.
Friday off because
We
of
still
the
have Friday off. Yep, so you still have a
Okay.
4-day weekend. Families still have their
So what
4-day
did you
weekend to go.
determine the start date would be?
For August 31st.
It would be August, it would be just that week before. It would give us a very much similar calendar. So the question really becomes for you is, we didn't want to come in with, for example, a proposal that said, through the, working with the union, that we're all in agreement, we want to start before Labor Day, and have our board go, nope, we don't like that idea. And, or build in the professional development as instructional time, even though if we can keep it at the 1,112 hours, and go, no, we want to still see it in this parameter there. And so, but to go from 181 to 182 days, for example, or every day we add on top of that for a teacher is going to be approximately 130,000. So if we're trying to talk about full days of instruction there. So with that, I'm going to
That
pause. and
was
ask
a
questions.
lot from you, and that was a lot from you. You both talked very fast, so I'm
We
going to
tag
ask
teamed
a
it.
few questions. So is the intent for us to have this discussion now, to be able to send information out on what you would like to do, or what is the intent of what we're doing right now?
So the intent is that we would like to hear from you on your thoughts around using instructional time for PD and starting before Labor Day. Because all the other parameters of the calendar, like I said, the biggest one is we're going to attach PD days to days off that are already on the calendar. Like the best example I'll give you is that Monday after Thanksgiving will be a PD day, because it's already, so that parents already see it's already part of their, like a longer vacation, rather than it's like in the middle of the week or something like that.
I would say yes and yes.
Well, I have a few.
No, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'm expressing that's my
Yeah, yeah.
opinion. There's not a lot of talking in my opinion. It's yes and yes.
When you say it's
Sorry
going to
about that. I
cost
didn't mean to
130,000, but
imply
if we go to
that.
full-day PDs, we'll have less half-day PDs, correct?
Oh, correct. Yes.
So transportation costs should drop a little bit?
So your transportation costs would drop if we went from 180 student days down to like 177 student days. As long as we kept our, again, the instructional hours is what matters, is staying at 1,112 hours. And that's that trade-off from half days to full days of instruction.
So it would take, and I'm trying to follow along here.
Yes, ma'am.
So it would take the instructional days from 180 to 177 if
Or
we,
178, or. yes.
if we do what?
If you took and said, because one of the conversations that the board has had is we'd like to see us look at doing full days of PD.
Okay?
Okay? So the trade-off is this: if we went down to 179 student days, you just eliminated 2 half-days. Okay? Well, those 2 half-days now became, one of them is going to become a full day, and the other one is a PD day. And so what you have just, you've made it basically a push.
And the cost is 0.
Cost would be 0 there.
Okay.
But what we want to do though is we want to, actually mock it all up, make sure it's that way. But we don't want to walk in, if we can stay in that parameter, and again, obviously staying well above. Right now, we're required to have 1,098 hours. We have 1,112 hours. So
There are a couple.
14 hours over.
There are a couple times that we would have half days.
That's
Parent-
where my next.
Parent-teacher conference days would be half days. Teachers work in the AM and they do conferences in the afternoon and the evening. That happens 2 times a year.
So, I don't remember all of the days. How many current half-days are we operating outside of parent-teacher conferences for PD? Anybody have that answer?
I think it's 6.
I want to say 8.
It's at least one.
It's
right?
an even number. I do know
I
that.
will tell you this, the parents think it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yes.
seems like that
It
happens
always
all the
seemed like it's
time.
a
The 30 hours, so we have 2 days before, building in there.
I think that will help in the conversation if we know exactly what.
We go
numbers.
over, we've really tried because there are points in the school year when we really felt, and by the time that we did the calendar, we were not
coming
really
Okay.
full on days in May. And we wanted to have something in May because that's when everything's winding down. And felt we needed days to look at the things that we look at as a board all year. Teachers do too, but you have to finalize because you're getting a new group of kids. So
Yeah.
looking at the data and placing kids where
Well,
they need to be.
those half-days got added, if I recall, because we switched, we did not like the 2-hour late
Delays.
starts and whatnot. So was it last year we did that? So last year, the switch was to try to make that more feasible for everybody.
Yes.
And so now we're looking at to even advance on that in the best way possible. And so what'd you come up with, Mary?
8 half-days with PD and the PM that are not your teacher conferences.
Okay.
There's
That are
8.
also not teacher work afternoons.
Right.
Okay. So those are the 8 days that we're discussing. And under your 179-day plan, Andy, we would be moving 2 of
Well,
those.
so what you would have is, if we could stay at the 1,112 hours, you could actually go, take that and go, all right, we're going to go down from 180 down to 176 student days. Because if you go to 8 half days, become 4 full days. of
And we would
PD.
still have the
As
1,112.
long as we meet the contact hours. We just want to make sure that those parameters, because once we sit down, we start mocking it up and drilling it in.
Okay.
Because we don't want to spend a lot of time trying to create it to
Yeah.
then have it fail. So as long as if we can stay inside that parameter
Okay.
there, because again, this is an item where we work hand in hand with our teachers union on it too,
Right.
because they may be like, we love the idea here, but can we only go from 8 half days? Let's knock it down to just 4. And here's the whys. And so there may be something there, so.
As a
that's it.
non-teacher, I put the disclaimer out there.
Mm-hmm.
What is a PD day look like that still counts as an instructional day? What does that day look like for staff and
It's
students?
the equivalent, same exact hours.
The students are in the building?
The students are not there.
Okay, this is what I'm
Yeah.
clarifying, because
So-
instruction sounds like students.
Yep. So what would be is that instead of, for example, I'll use tomorrow. Tomorrow may have typically been a day where we would have had students in the building, okay? But because it's part of our PD schedule, and actually a greater example is this Friday, being that we're heading into President's Day weekend, right? So this Friday is going to be a PD day, all right? So no students are here, but because of us having 2 other half days built into the calendar, now we've accounted for that time and having the teachers here, the kids are at home.
You mean in the new proposed?
In the new
plan?
proposed.
I'm like,
That's-
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but the equivalent time is the exact same as what the kids are here. So it's the 7 hours in the day, I believe is the number.
Is there any
this good?
savings to not do the half days? For example, you're not running buses if you have a
Correct.
full
If
day.
we go to-
PD,
if
you've got
you-
auxiliary staff you're not paying.
Yep. Yeah, and that's exactly it. You're going to see a reduction of cost because your staff, if you go under that, and every single day will be a fair amount of money.
So if we go to 176 instructional days with the 1,112 instructional hours maintaining, we would eliminate all half-days under your plan?
Potentially.
Okay.
I'm not going
And
to come around and say
those
yes until we
days-
mock it up on
For
paper.
conference.
Yes, I'm just,
Yep.
I'm just following along here. So then those 4 full days
Yes, ma'am.
would be accounted for with like a holiday or
Yep.
some other thing. So
Yep.
they would have another day off. The teachers would come back with no students.
Correct. Yeah, so like this.
Do you have a
this coming
sense?
week would be an example of that right here, where kids are out Friday, Monday, Tuesday, they got the weekend in there. Teachers are here Friday, and then they'll be out that Monday, Tuesday, like they currently are.
I'm guessing if we're having this discussion, we have a fair sense of some certainty that teachers would be open to the idea of this. Or I mean, we think we
I'm
have this
looking at the
conversation.
audience.
because-
waiting
I had
for
one-
nods.
I did have-
Then why do we
I did
have
have
this
one-
conversation? We're
Parents
taking one at a
also.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It seems to be, and although we do have kids club, that we have a larger population that go there on half days, but it really is, parents have
Yep.
not loving half days.
so this was a way that we figured, that we felt like, okay, can we meet both? And again, this is working with our teachers union, so that's why I don't give exacts, because it's,
Yeah.
we said that we play in that sandbox very well in the calendar creation.
So,
So basically, you're asking us to give you a recommendation for you to go to the teachers union.
Through
And
this
talk about it.
conversation, if I felt like, something, I could sense, like, for example, you all are catching this right here. If the board, many of you, right, like, I do not like the idea of starting before Labor Day, and I'm hearing consensus around the board. I don't need a motion. Like, there is no appetite for that. If we take a calendar to our board that starts before Labor Day, they're gonna vote it down.
Right.
But if through here, I'm getting, something, I'm good with, as long as we say the 1,112 hours for instruction, get as many full days in there as PD as you possibly can, that are attached to vacations, and, this year and most likely next, because they're both late here, please work on that with the union, see if they're in favor of that.
I would like to hear from those that are actually in the trenches. Like,
Yeah.
we can make this
75%
decision, but
attendance
is
an
that
issue
what?
for the
staff
staff? I mean,
Nope, because if we
Have
get.
you ever
to-
been close to
says
that,
yes.
or?
No,
tell her.
Yeah.
no.
Oh, I'm like, they're out there nodding, so I'm taking that as a
Also,
positive,
starting
but
before Labor
what do I
Day is
know?
also part of the negotiation.
It would be, yes.
Yeah.
it
It
would be
is.
what?
When you, since we haven't done this in a while,
I would think so.
the state.
They sign those waivers all day long.
Okay.
That's
So
a
non-issue.
What was that
the
question?
waiver, if
That the
we,
state will approve the waiver.
yeah, that's a
Oh, she'd already said she would do that.
yeah, the waiver's not a
Everything
problem.
Mary
starts.
wants to say something.
Yeah, so I personally think that starting before Labor Day would be easier to make sure that students are in the door, because parents are often eager to welcome in the beginning of the school year after summer vacation. However, it is very challenging to keep students in school come June 10th, June 11th,
Absolutely.
June 12th, June 13th.
Engaged.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also in the building.
Yeah.
So I think from my experience that if we were to start before Labor Day in that early September time, I don't think there would be a lot of blowback, because we would be ending the academic year in earlier June.
Could I add something real quick? And that is just something to think about, that it takes you take a big chunk and then you make a big move and it could upset folks. But our students take cumulative tests 2 months before the school ends. Sometimes 2.5 months if we're out on June 15. So I'm not proposing an August 1st start date. What I am saying is that we come back from spring break and boom, kids take our state assessments and we have 2.5 months left of school, and that's tough on students. So.
I was gonna, yeah.
In your world, what it leads
I would say that it does help. Sometimes folks are out in the great state of Ohio, like Memorial Day. Like typically that's a teacher work day on Friday, and as long as there's not a lot of snow. And I'm not saying it's the best model in the world, because sometimes you get some really garbage weather that first 2 weeks of June, and it's like 50 degrees and not really summer. But those are just all things to think about. Big picture, maybe not tonight.
Well,
But-
when you mention the weather, obviously that last week of August can be extremely hot.
And now you're pushing into August and there's issues there with,
Yeah,
yeah, I see what you're saying.
yeah, especially.
That's what
in
I
a
was
non-air
thinking.
conditioned building.
If we start,
Yeah,
if we start on the proposed date, you said August 31st, right? How many days would they be in school before they go to labor break? Four.
yeah.
So you're bringing them in for 4 days and then they're not going to be there for how many days?
4 days.
4 days.
And they're coming back for 4.
So it makes me wonder
The three biggest.
what's going to happen for those 4 days. It would seem like teachers get them in and all of a sudden, they're starting to get gone. They're gone for 4 days and then you would have to like come in and start all over. So that would just make me wonder how that would be.
It's actually quite the opposite.
There you go. See? Tells you what I know.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
So it works the other way.
It does.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
that was a good response.
Yeah.
I can tell you, my wife always said after Memorial Day, you forget anything. Yeah,
So it wouldn't be any sooner, like, were you suggesting sooner, David? Were you suggesting sooner than August 31st?
We could go to a full year calendar discussion if you'd like.
No, no, we don't have the capabilities yet.
No.
We don't have the capabilities yet.
Anyway, it was just a thought, because you're talking, if it's 4 days, we're only actually getting out 4 days earlier, and if it was
I
June
think the-
15th, it'd be June
But the
11th.
difference being is this, is that what David was trying to say and didn't get it out clearly and quickly enough, is that those 4 days
Yeah.
equate to this. If we would have had 4 days sooner this year, look at what January was, okay, number of days. So you actually, by coming in and have those 4 days, you've got four more days earlier in the year. And that's his whole point, is that if nothing shifted, spring break happens, testing, we start that after Labor Day, it's 4 less days. And then if you have the snow days, you're still even less days. So that's the reason why capacity. So that's why he was trying to go, like, starting earlier in August may not be a bad thing, but we do need air conditioning, and other things in the buildings to make something like that work.
yeah, 'cause
It also
some states
balances out
They do.
the
First of
very-
August.
start very early.
It does.
So, so thank you for your point.
It's a special date on June 15th.
Okay,
Is there, yeah,
So just, this is a tangent to the conversation, but I'm curious if anybody has context, background information on this. So if we were to start before Labor Day, because our school district hasn't done that in quite some time, would that have a ripple effect for like our athletics and their conditioning over summer, all of that?
Nothing.
Or would they be able to do what they need to do regardless?
it's all the same because their first date of athletic practices falls right around August 10th. So it doesn't, that won't shift at all. In all honesty, for where that all falls, if we waited one more week, that'd be their third game, like for football, before we have a day of school. So,
okay.
I have a
Yes,
question. On our strategic plan, we, I believe it's in there, of amount of teacher attendance required for
Yep.
PD days. What was the number we put in there?
I think it's like 95%.
This only says 75.
This is the state.
State,
Okay.
This is the state.
Okay.
If you use instructional time, that's the whole thing. Remember how like we had that one day this year that we didn't hit 75%? So if we don't hit, if teachers don't show 75%, we can't count that day.
Okay.
And so back to what Carrie is alluding to, yes, through our conversations with our teachers union, is that we have to have 75% attendance rate.
Okay.
If we do this too.
And then the 95% is just our internal
internal goal.
strategic
Yeah.
plan to, for education. Okay.
We haven't heard from you.
I did.
Did
I
we?
said I would like to hear from them. what
Oh,
they want.
okay.
They seem to want before Labor Day.
Okay.
I'm in agreement.
Can you come up to our mic?
You sat,
No.
no,
no, you sat in the front row, remember that?
I did that on purpose, so I wouldn't have to come up here. No, so this is my 31st year with Monroe Public, so I've been here for a long time, and we always started before Labor Day. As a teacher, as having kids in the district, we love that soft start. We used to start on a Tuesday, and we would go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 days. We'd have 4 days off. And then we'd go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we'd have 4 days before we had a full week. Kids loved it, teachers loved it. I didn't think it disrupted the learning at all. We were able to get some of the things taken care of before that 4-day break. I know teachers are in favor of it because they've already polled the teachers. So,
Of the full days.
no, of starting before Labor
Oh,
Day.
okay.
Question, because I remember my wife would start getting her classroom ready. Is that going to push that back a week?
Maybe
or
a little
so?
bit,
A
but
little bit.
it
We've
wasn't.
already got that covered. We already have a set date that, we're not moving buildings. We already have a set date when these buildings will be open anyway, so that won't even,
Okay.
that date's a relevant date.
Good.
The only building it will mess with, a tinge, will be Manor, and only because they're in construction, but it's workable.
Since you're
They'll
standing
have to
here,
get done early.
We'll get it done early.
I'm in the hot seat. What have I started? Okay.
well, only, has there been like any discussion on the full days?
I have not heard that. I can tell you,
Maybe your perspective, or if you don't mind sharing.
well, principal wise, I can tell you as school improvement coach now, when Scott and I get together and talk, we say we wish we had a full day for PD.
Okay.
And I know parents don't like the half day or the late starts because the attendance is always so poor.
Yeah.
So I think both are a good idea, in my opinion.
Good.
Thanks
Help
for
with
sharing.
attendance.
Thank you.
also. That'd be amazing.
Do not wear sunglasses next time, we can still see you.
Yeah. Okay.
I like
Any
that.
other,
Did you want to put any 2 cents in there, James?
No, I agree with what Cheryl's saying. As a administrator and a teacher for not 31 years, we're getting close. Full day PD is much better for me. Half days when I walk in, the comments are, gosh, it feels like a ghost town in here. Especially in this time of year when it's cold, or if we have a lot of snow days and there's a half day sprinkled in, the kids get this feel of like, well, I don't really need to be there. And the teachers are like, well, I'm teaching to a ghost town. It was really counterproductive. If they could have a full day, with full day PDs, we could experience a lot more things. We could get a lot more in depth. Right now, there are so many things we need to cover in such a short period of time. The 2-hour late starts were the worst as far as PD goes.
Yeah.
Because the kids would be getting there as we're starting the day. We have other obligations to them. Half days are better, but they're not as good as a full day would be. Full day would allow us to maybe leave the building, maybe go experience things, do some crosstalk with other buildings that we can't do right now. We could split up half days, like in our building, half days elsewhere. We could join the community a little bit more, invite the community in a little bit more. Right now, we have about 3 hours with the half days. If we had 6 hours, I think that we could accomplish a lot. And I think people would buy into it. I don't think we'd have any problems with that, especially if they knew that we weren't adding to the school year, like going 180 some days. I think it would be a good trade-off.
So it'd be
I-
a full school day, like
yes.
full school day?
Yeah.
To consider with it, we're going to look at data in just a minute, and it's always a delicate dance between what PD do you offer on a half day. The 2-hour late starts weren't enough time for us to get started by the time, like James was saying, by the time we get started in PD, kids are coming in the buildings, families are calling. With a full day of PD, you have more of an opportunity to allow not only teachers across buildings to meet, but you can also think about what content areas you're covering and perhaps have time for both ELA and math and not have to make those decisions. Right now, schools are offering PD, but some of it happens during the school day, which is then dependent upon getting a teacher coverage or a teacher utilizing a planning period to come down and get that PD. Sub plans, it's difficult for a teacher to not be in their classroom because then when a sub is there, we think about what instruction is not happening. So a full day allows us that time to be able to cover what we need to and at the level that we need to cover it. So just a
I like that.
consideration.
Sounds like the staff wants it. It'll save some money and hopefully helps with attendance.
And I think the parents would love it too.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Angela, did you want to say anything? No, I'm good. Okay. Anybody else?
All right. Well, thank you very much. We'll go to work on this. Being that today is February the 10th, most likely we'll try to, we want to have this calendar back in front of you in March, simply because parents want to plan for next year. We'll get it done as fast as we can with the union. Thank you. All right, so next up is our student achievement. As a reminder, Andrea began the presentation last night, and so, and keep time moving right along. We got about 50 minutes right here.
I am going to
So,
try. My computer decided
Andrea?
it wanted to shut down all the way, so we're getting it.
I recognize that.
All right, so I'm going to just go right to, we went through the first part of this last night, so I am just going to jump in really quick to, I guess I need to project it for you first, to the data, and we can have some conversations about it.
Yeah.
All right, so as this
Nice
is
to
going,
see your support back there, by the way.
it's wonderful to have all these. They are in the trenches. They do all this work, so I appreciate having them here. So as I said, we're going to go over the data tonight for both ELA and math, and I'll apologize in advance with this cohort data. I misunderstood the request of what was wanted with cohort data, and I was thinking we wanted trimester 1 to trimester 1 to trimester 1, and so went back to 2022 with that. But I do understand you wanted maybe the data from the end of the year to look at, so we'll get you that at another time.
I think at the
But
end of
at
this
the end
year,
of this year, I'll be able to
would
give you
be
the
good.
end of the year from here, and we can track back to see how we've done. But for tonight's purposes, I do have the cohort data prepared for you from 2022 at the end of trimester 1, that would have been the 22-23 school year, to the present, both in ELA and in math. So we are going to take some time to look at that, and we'll highlight some positive trends. And then as you'll see, there are some areas where when we look across the data, there are some points where we need to have some deeper discussions and do some deeper dives into the data. And so I will give you some reasons around why it may look the way that it does, but I do welcome conversation, and hopefully we can have that conversation in a way that moves our discussions forward at the building level as well. So with that, we'll get started with our ELA cohort data. So we'll start back in the year. These are our current third graders, and in the 22-23 school year, those were kindergartners. I do want to just point out to you that as you look at cohort data, you're going to see some fluctuations in the number of students that we have from year to year, even within the cohort. So we know students move in, they move out. We have that slight fluctuation in some numbers. So that is why you're going to see it's not always the exact same group of students from year to year, because we have the movements. Kindergarten coming in, we always say we don't know, that group is, it's always a surprise to us. From year to year, kindergarten looks different, but this group of students you can see back in 2022 at the end of trimester 1 where they were in their proficiency. And just again, as a reminder, you do not start to see any red until they hit first grade, that more than one grade level below. You do not see the dark red, the 2 or more grade levels below. That does not show up in an iReady until grade 3. So that's something to pay attention to. It's not that, oh, suddenly now we have the red. It's not a possibility in iReady until grade 3. So as you look across to grade K and through the years, you'll see that that student population stayed pretty consistent with the above grade level and on grade level. And then as they hit second grade, we saw a little dip there with that grade level. And that on and above, it went down slightly. We saw a rise then in that approaching band and an increase in the more than one grade level below band. But then this year, that group of students has kind of rebounded again. And in grade 3, we now see our above or on grade level has increased again. And we look back and we are pretty much in line with where we were back in 2022. So we had a little dip in the second grade with that cohort, and now they're back up again. We do see that the approaching has dropped, which would then indicate a couple of things. We could make some inferences that perhaps some of those students that were in that approaching band have moved into a proficient band. And I mean, we could infer that maybe some have slid backwards. Some could have fallen into the more than one grade level or two or more, which is that 80. You'll see as second graders when we have 80 students that were sitting in the more than one grade level below. Now that sort of gets broken up, and we have where do the students fall as they go. Third grade, you'll remember I pointed out yesterday, is a pivotal grade level for reading. It's where that shift happens, where if your foundational skills, where you're learning to read, are not solid when you get to third grade and now you're reading to learn, we often see those gaps emerge. So something that we infer from the data as we look at it and we go deeper into the domains with third grade is that a lot of times it's the comprehension questions, or if they're not solid on foundational skills in their phonics, that they often fall that two or more grade levels below there.
So when you look at that, in your inference for the red, it went from 80, and technically the entire red is 81 in the next year, which is the first time you can show up for the two or more grades behind, which is the 27. You couldn't see that before that. However, the fact that the on grade level increased and the above grade level increased, I'm not cheerleading the red, but what I am saying is that's a big increase in those two categories, which something happened there, at least for that portion of the students.
For that portion.
So that's good to see.
Looked like it all came out of the approaching. So that's the
Yeah.
good part. Looked like most of those moved up.
Yeah, because the red essentially stayed the same.
Stayed the same. True. Okay. And moving along to our first grade cohort in 2022, they are now our current fourth graders. If we look along that line, it looks as though in third grade there was an increase in their on or above grade level. This year it is slightly lower as fourth graders. But again, reminding you that as that rigor increases and those skills increase throughout the grade, we do see sometimes that middle band has grown. You'll see there's a slight change in the number of students that we have from last year to this year in that cohort. We do see that the darker red, there are more students there this year as fourth graders. One thing with iReady to also keep in mind is that the older students get, the band that you need to score within, it gets smaller. So your score range within that band is smaller. So if you're not, you may have, let's say, if you're in the red in third grade, you may be able to have a 20-point difference. Whereas when you get to fourth grade, you may only have a 10-point difference that would put you in the next band down. So those parameters tighten a little bit around those levels and where you're placed. But we do see that the approaching has fluctuated a bit as they've gone from third grade to fourth grade. That approaching band is larger. And we do see the 2+ below appears in grade 3 and it remains persistent in grade 4 in its present.
So, I understand the complexities with iReady. I understand like what you explained yesterday. I understand that it can only do so much, but this is all we have to go on. And so besides this and the state scores, that's it.
Yeah.
And so we have to look and evaluate something somehow, and, the red on this, the good part is that the dark red didn't increase that much. Not
Right,
that
it's not
anybody moved
dramatic.
out of it, but it didn't increase that much. And that correlates to the grade 1 number of total red. I don't know what that means, but, the unfortunate part is we have students that are two more grades
Sure.
behind
Yep.
and whatnot.
And
so.
one of the things that's difficult when we show you this is obviously we don't have student names attached to this. So when you see 41 students, then you see 44 students, some may be the same students that are still in
Yeah.
that band. Some may not be.
We understand
And
that.
so it is
Yeah.
difficult. There are ebbs and flows with where students score at a certain point. So, while it may look like the same kids, it may or may not be the same students. And
But we're
that's the
also
work that
looking
they.
at, because we oversee curriculum, choices, you guys pick it, we say yes, essentially that's it. But it's looking the effectiveness of the curriculum as well.
Yep.
So when we look at this, we say, how effective was the curriculum? Envision came.
This is. math.
This is reading, so
Oh,
this
is
would be
reading,
our
I'm
units
sorry.
of, so any
We
students
didn't
that you
switch
see.
anything. This was all Lucy Calkins.
This is Lucy Calkins. This year,
Some of it's
for
into reading.
most
I'm
of,
sorry
the-
about the
most of
division,
our
so-
schools this year, and when we get to, so I'm doing cohort first and then we'll go to grade level. In the grade level, I do have a line that kind of shows where we've brought in. Most of our classrooms are utilizing the HMH Into Reading program. This was supposed to be kind of a pilot year for us, but most of our teachers at this point have said, give me the materials. I'm rolling with it. So we are seeing results, but something to keep in mind is that when you look at a grade 4 cohort of students, that's not foundational skill learning at that point. So we do evaluate curriculum and the needs based on what we've seen to say, was there a gap somewhere in those foundational years for those kids? Was there some instruction that could have been strengthened? I do believe strongly, looking at visiting kindergarten classrooms, I think Veronica's a kindergarten teacher, I'm not going to put her on the spot, but I think there's a lot more grammar and foundational skill emphasis in the new program that we have.
So one other thing, just for a quick second, I know we got to keep moving, is if we think back and you look at these students, you have 280 in first grade, 281, 288, 295. And so if we look from second or third grade to fourth grade, we had 7 new students come into our school district. That doesn't account for the number of students that left either. So that
Right.
is a piece of a component we do always have to keep in mind there too, is that when the number of students that stayed with us, so I think when we think about the number of kids that have moved in, that's still, it's a positive at the same moment in time. Now, I couldn't tell you right this second where they all landed, but we did get more kids in the door, lost kids, and so for us even to potentially have sustained in some areas, it's probably a positive at the same time.
Would you say, as a generality, I know it's hard to make generalities, but when you lose a kid, are they more likely to be a kid that's not succeeding? That I know that there could be work changes. For
Not
people, but
always.
It's
Not
all across the
always.
board.
Yeah, it's
All
all
right.
across the
All right.
board.
Thank you.
Our biggest concern that we always watch for is how many times a child moves. Because if they move a lot, then that does have an impact.
Yeah, and we do have students who move away, then come back, and then they leave again, and then they come back again, and, you know, we have to account for those things. Right.
I concur, not that you need me to, but that changement of students obviously is going to be impacted, but not with the capacity to affect these big numbers. If these numbers were like closer, we have, 103 in the red.
Yeah.
So a few movements is not moving that shift in such a big capacity to make that big of an impact. So, yeah, I mean, I can see it, but I don't see it making the big shifts that we're looking to see.
So just as another side note, first grade and older, as we get into second grade, third grade, fourth grade onward, all of these grade levels were impacted by the COVID closures. So this first grade cohort would have been masking their kindergarten year.
And you'll see as you get to the older ones, the foundational skill years were probably remote.
I think in between third and fourth grade that she had up there is a significant jump. Like, we've got 20 kids out of that red area into the yellow and green part. So like, while we still have that red there, it's not.
We're going back to it.
That's all right.
None of us were here. Can you say it again?
Personally.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Hello.
So just the numbers here from third grade to fourth grade, like there are more kids that we're looking at in fourth grade, but those numbers, you're looking at 190 roughly that are in the yellow and above. And the year before, there were only 170. So like 20 more kids making that jump, whether they were, we don't know where those kids came from, or they were in or out. And we have more kids in the fourth grade. So, I mean, those 20 kids is a significant build into the yellow.
All right, it's moving along to our second grade cohort, who are our current fifth graders. As you can see, our on-grade level, so that not the darkest green, but the on-grade level, it is the highest this year, as it's been. We do have the approaching level that has decreased slightly from when they were fourth graders. And you do see now that 2 plus or below fluctuate. It's not consistently expanded because it's a little deceiving when you look at this because you think, oh my gosh, look at that, more than one grade level below is now so much larger than it was when they were fourth graders. But I would encourage you to look at the 2 or more grade levels below as fourth graders and look at the fifth grade now, the 2 or more grade levels below. So that number, we can infer that some of those students have made progress. Yes, they are not in the proficient range yet or the approaching range, but perhaps they've moved across the band and they're now in that more than one grade level below as opposed to 2 or more grade levels below.
What's the percentage on that? Do you have that? You don't have it by grade, do you?
Which one, what grade level are you looking at?
It looks like it's like, what, 46%?
Second grade, 2020.
Second grade?
46% in the red? Is that what we're thinking?
Are you looking at total red?
The 5 grade, oh,
Well,
you don't have 5 semester 1. Yeah,
Give me
Yeah.
one here.
that's a big percentage of the group of
Mhm.
kids. It's not half, but it's knocking on half.
Yeah. It's good.
And so moving on, our third grade cohort, these are the current sixth graders. So keep in mind with current sixth grade, we do not have a new ELA program yet. It is being explored. We have some programs that are being looked at and piloted for our grades 6, 7, and 8 when you look at that data. But keep in mind, these are all our current board-approved curriculum is our units of study for these grades. So what we see in sixth grade, our honor above grade level bands declined in 2023. So you'll see when those students were in fourth grade, there was a bit of a decline in their honor above grade level, but they have started to rebound since then. And right now we're closely aligned to where those kids were as third graders in 2022 with that honor above. We do see that middle band kind of stabilizing between their fifth and their sixth grade. There's not a lot of fluctuation that happens there. But a key piece for us to keep in mind with this grade level is that once they leave fifth grade and enter sixth grade, we see that some of them have slid back now to that 2 or more grade levels below. And so that indicates to us a need to intervene with students that are at that 1+ band so that we can prevent this from decline in upcoming grades. So when we go into the middle school as well, you'll see that need to really be proactive in the way that we target our interventions versus reactive once they reach this level. But it does also reinforce then our path that we're on right now to look at our resources and evaluate whether or not they're meeting the current needs of our students.
We do need to recognize that 5-6 building, this is the start.
This is
So
the start.
First trimester is, the first indicator we have of the impact of the move. Because the move, during the discussion, there was a discussion and part of it was that grades, that making a move like that could cause grade fluctuations. And so, based on just the data you presented, I would say that's an accurate statement because the fifth grade grew in the red and the sixth grade, while it doesn't appear to have grown in the red, the dark red has grown considerably. So that's going to be seriously, how
Yes,
does
you're
that come out
correct.
at the end of the year? It's going to be really, really insightful into the impact of, and Laura's here, impact of that move. So,
And I know
I'm
Laura,
sure you're-
Laura and her team are on it and they're doing a lot of great work and I
yeah, but it's just notable.
there will
to
be.
see.
I think
I think if it was the other way, we'd be cheering, and so.
I think there are a lot of wonderful things that are happening at that building level, and I am confident by the end of the year, we're going to see some shifts just based on their work that they're currently doing. And then our fourth grade cohort, who are our current seventh graders, the middle school, we see the same type of trend, except if we look at our honor above grade level bands, though, that is the highest that this cohort has been since 2022. So their numbers in the above or the on grade level have risen. The movement from the middle band suggests that some of the students may have moved into a proficient band. Some students may have moved from one grade level below to the proficient. However, we see the trend again where the 2+ grade levels does increase, demonstrating that need again to really pay attention to who's in that more than one grade level below band and watch them closely from year to year to find out not only who they are, but what is causing the score to be what it is. Because remember, iReady is not just about a score, it's about helping us to identify the standards that a student is not yet proficient on, and keeping in mind that the standard is the end goal, the skills are the roadmap to get to the mastery of that standard. And we were talking with our ELA rep today about that as well. So really knowing what skills kids are lacking so we can target those and prevent the further fall behind. And then with our current 8th graders, again, we do see a similar trend as we've talked about, except for, again, our honor above grade level bands. They are, again, at the highest level that we've seen since 2022. We do see some movement again in the middle band, but again, our 2+ grade levels below fluctuates. The student numbers are slightly different as well. You'll see as they went from 7th to 8th grade this year, we have a few less students. But you will see those numbers have stayed pretty consistent. And it does show us that intervening early is important, because if we don't identify where those skills are lacking, that red does grow.
So what's anybody's thought, or your team's thought, on the fact that essentially you could make the point that that is exactly the same all the way down, almost? I mean, the colors almost all line up. So what does anybody have an input into that? I mean, we're not seeing big fluctuations maybe between the red and stuff, but I mean, the bands almost line up. Like, what's anybody's thought on that? Because they're all the same
Well,
kids.
I could
Just
say,
like, and somebody can correct my math if I'm wrong, but looking at them coming into the middle school, there's a 33% growth in proficiency with that cohort of kids. Because you're going from 30, what is it, 39, 36? What is it, 33 and 30, what is that? So
33, 30, 40, 49,
to
43,
100
56.
kids when they took it for the first time in 8th grade.
I'm looking at the red too. You know, the
Yeah,
red is.
and
pretty-
I think
pretty
to talk to your point about the red,
It's
and
just- it's
we'll
just a
see this
question.
in math too, like, I think your unfinished learning compounds over time. And so there's something that's lacking in 5th grade, and if it's not addressed in 5th grade, then when you move to 6th grade, you have that skill that's lacking, and perhaps it's your learning builds on your prior knowledge or your prior skills that you need to have. And so if those skills don't, if they're not acquired, then it just compounds over time. And so we may see more students that would fall further behind. They may have been in the lighter red and fell behind to the darker red.
I also think the opposite is true too. If you start with a head start, it's easier to stay in the dark green. So if you come in with preschool and young fives
you'll-
under your
we've got
belt
that
and you
later.
have lots and lots of
Later on.
reading materials at home and you have all of those resources available to you and you start out in the green in kindergarten and you're at the way top end of green in kindergarten, it's way easier for you to get into the dark green 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and maintain dark green than it is for somebody to go from yellow to dark green, to go from red to dark green, to go from dark red to dark green, or even to go from dark red to yellow to green.
I would agree, and I don't know why this kicked me off. Okay.
And I'd like to say that I would double down on what Andrea said with the further you fall behind, the more difficult and challenging it is to catch up. And we are seeing things at the lower levels with the new curriculum that we trying not to say that word, Mr. Shaw, the hope word. I'm looking for a different one. But we would infer, Andrea, that growth would continue to flow upward. I'm going to stop there because I wanted to say hope again. I'm trying not to say hope.
But when we look at that, and I look at an education system, and I say, these students are struggling. We identified this group of students was struggling in grade 5. So all of the interventions and all of the extra stuff that is added on to help these kids to be able to move that needle up, I would think in 4 years, there should have been movement, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to teach, we're here to educate, we're here to pull those kids out of that red. Not only push them in the green, I'm not saying that, but to get them out of that red, because every year, like you say, every year then they're another step behind, and another step behind, and another step behind. And then we wonder why they go to class and they probably don't want to sit there because they have no clue what's going on. They can't engage, they can't work on the projects, they can't do the homework, they can't take a test. I mean,
So that's, you are exactly correct. And that is why, though, we have said right along, everything has to begin kindergarten, first, second grade. And that's why we flipped the paradigm, because we know that when you look back to these kids when they were fifth graders, the amount of resources you have to put in time, it's double, triple what you would have to put into a first or second grader to get the outcomes you need. And so so these students, we haven't stopped working with them, but we did go, and, we had 47 students come to become more proficient, go to proficiency level here. Yes, the red has to keep moving.
you can't keep growing.
Nope.
I mean, that's the issue. We're an education system, and our kids are falling and falling and falling. It's just
But-
true.
I'm understanding it. My point is, though, that from the point of what research will continually tell us is that the amount of time they have to put into it with a student is an exorbitant amount, which we still do. We put in after school, we put in summer school, we do all of that. And so it's not for lack of effort on Monroe Public Schools' part with our students up in these grade levels.
I'm
there.
not suggesting that, but
I'm
what
not
I am
su- right.
suggesting is
But we're-
we have to anticipate that, we've sat here all the time. Why did I run for a school board? Why do you all do the jobs you do? For all the exact same reasons. And we think we can impact the system from different ways, and that's all we're here to do. And we all want the same thing. Like, we want to be higher up and hold up our flags and say, we're number one in the state, or get wherever you want to be from a individual standpoint. But that what this is showing is it's not being pushed. It's in the red, which are the students that are falling behind, like, makes sense.
I'd be a little careful, because again, this is trimester one. Depending, a lot of these kids, depending on their home situation, regress over the summer. That's why I think trimester 3 is much better.
Yeah, I
Kids
agree.
learn at different rates, but you would hope at the end of the school year, they've reached that equivalency or that proficiency. So that's why I was looking at trimester 3 and
Right.
my analysis.
And you do see fluctuations throughout the year as to where students begin, where they fall in the middle, where they go at the end. But
Right.
yet we'll put together, once we have that end of the year data, we'll
Yeah.
bring it all back and
I
look
think
at it
that's more
together.
important.
Does your 3 compare to this 1 at all? Because that would have been semester 3 of last year with her trimester 1 of this year. So I'd just be curious to see how we went from there to there.
Yeah, well, when I look at tier 3 cohort data, it's, which obviously you want to see a decline as you go from, grade 1 up through this case, there's only 3 data points. I caution you, it's pretty minimal. So it's mixed. We've got, my data shows for the cohort datas are positive. They're on downward trends for tier 3, and 3 of the grades are on the upward. But the cross, we're going to get into the non-cohort actually looks better.
Yeah, when we get into non-cohort.
Non-cohort looks much better.
Um,
So,
We have the same thing for math. We can move into the math cohort data. Before we do that, I just want to remind you, K-5 Envision was adopted in the 2023 school year. So we're in our third year. So students that you can look at, K-5 have had 2 full years. They're in their third year. 6-8 Envision was adopted in 2024. That means that these students are just in their second year of having, if they are in our 6 through 8. So there is a line when I go through these slides, there's a red line here, and that will denote that year that Envision was implemented. So this is our kindergarten cohort again, that are current third graders. So you can see that they, again, just a reminder that 2+ grade levels below first appears in third grade. So that's the first time that you're going to see that. And it reflects that shift in that diagnostic rigor and the expectations in third grade. Third grade, again, a pivotal year as it was in reading, is also a pivotal year in math. We moved from that very concrete reasoning, place value, counting, addition, subtraction, basic, one more, one less, to now in third grade being introduced to multiplication and division, having to see those relationships, fractions and decimals, being able to determine the relationship between those two. And oftentimes, if the foundation is not solid from the K2, then you do see those struggles in the 3-5 as you begin to think more abstractly.
Can just as a question, the math stuff's kind of tough to take. There's
It is.
some areas where the number, you can't even put it in the graph because it's so tiny on the above grade level. And I'm not here to pile on in any way, shape, or form, but this is our third year of Envision, right? This will
We
be
are
the third
going
year of
into
it- going to
year
third year
three,
of Envision,
yes.
right? So how do we feel about Envision? Love it?
Yeah, we do.
It's going to turn the wheel?
Yeah, it will, if time.
Okay.
I think you have to account for, like, in year one, you have the teacher learning curve, you have a student learning curve, you have, even in year three, you're starting to refine your instructional practices. There's a lot that is included in Envision, and when we adopted Envision, we had laid out a plan of year one, this is what it looks like, year two, this is what it looks like, year three. I would default to teachers in the room, but what I have heard, people do appreciate the way that Envision is laid out. They believe that their students are being successful with it. It is just, we are in we're beginning year three, so we can't say we have 3 years under our belt yet
Right.
for this.
So would you say that-
Replace Streambox, is that correct?
iReady
Oh, just I read.
iReady did, yes.
So if you said the teachers, they're confident, and so that when you laid this stuff out, when you look at the trend line, is it along the trend line of what you expected? Are we above it? Are we below it? Are we about on it? Or
For our student achievement numbers?
yeah, I mean, because you said as you laid out the program.
When I mean we laid out the program, we laid out like in year one. So Envision has lots of components to it. So when I say we laid it out, it wasn't in terms of proficiency. It's in terms of you're going to do these components of the program in year one. Then in year two, we'll do those components plus this. Year three, we'll do this plus this. So each year, as we refine those instructional practices, we're adding in another piece for teachers, which will then, the intent is that it would impact student learning because we're able to.
At what point will we have full implementation of all of the things you're talking about? Year 4, year 5?
If we can get through this year, that's our year three is our full.
Right, I get that. Well,
And
let's
then
take it down the
next
road.
year, we should have most of our components implemented.
4.
Now that is,
Starting year 4.
high school did the phased-in approach. So when I'm talking, I'm saying our K6 has.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mary.
I also think Tom's point needs to be echoed. This is still trimester one. And the likelihood of students practicing math skills, especially over summer, is slim. They might read over summer, but the chances of them practicing math skills over summer, unless they go to the spectacular summer semester, is very, very small. So I think that's important context to consider. I do think that trimester 3 data is going to be more revealing to where we obviously currently stand. So I think that's an important thing to take with a grain of salt as we dig into this. And then the other component is that with our math program implementation, I think it's important to consider the fact that for all of our student data, we're on an upward trend for the first time in like a decade. Remember back in, it would have been like September, when we were looking at our overall student achievement and how it was showing our student achievement trajectory over the last 10 years on a big bar graph. And we're finally starting to make an upward trend So though we're in very close right now, if we were to zoom out overall, we are making improvements.
So when we talk about Envision Math, it was very clear, anybody that was here, I wasn't a fan of it. I wasn't a supporter of it. I didn't vote for it. But I do remember it was, we talked about it after year 3, Darla. At year 3, when year 3 is done, you will see how good this program is. And so I am looking to see how well the program works at the end of year 3. I know that you indicated with Brian that it may be longer than that, but that 3 was buried in my head that day, so yeah, that's what I said.
Our first grade, current fourth grade group. You can see that this group does show signs of early foundational gaps that have become more visible as a rigor increases over time. We do see the lowest band increase, and that suggests that perhaps expectations are rising faster than the growth for that subset of students. Doesn't mean that there is no growth for those students, but the rising expectations, their growth may not be as fast as it needs to be. And there has been movement, though, in the above and on grade level band since that program implementation. So you'll see as second graders going into it, we had 10 and 15. We now have 15 and 30 that are in that honor above. For our second grade cohort, our current fifth graders, we look back to those students as second graders, something to put your eyes on. Many of those students were clustered in that middle performance band. We had 141 of them there. As they moved into grades 3 through 5 and those math expectations shift, we did see that the change in the red. By grade 5, we can see that the gaps that were maybe manageable earlier have become more visible as that rigor and the math expectations increase. As we dive into the data, we see some gaps in the fraction understanding, multiplication, fluency, and place value reasoning. So those are the pieces as we look at that we identify a need to address and target. You will see, though, I mean, again, we do have different numbers of students. When they were in third grade, that group of students had quite a few students there, and we have lost a few. Third grade is our current sixth grade cohort. Again, if we start with the positive, our above and on grade level bands have increased since that program implementation. Consistently from fourth, fifth, sixth, those have gone up. We do see the approaching band shrink over time, suggesting that maybe some of those students have moved up and suggesting that some have fallen into lower bands as that rigor has increased. Our current seventh graders, something to just keep in mind. These students spent much of their early years from K to 4 in the previous math materials. The new math program entered these students after foundational gaps perhaps already existed in those earlier years, which then, as we've talked about, become those instructional barriers for this group of students. And as they take that diagnostic, the thresholds become more precise. And so you see an increase in the separation between those bands.
So just curiosity, what would the expectation, and I'm sure you look into all this, that those 99 students that when they get to 7th grade are 2 or more behind, that they're going to be able to successfully get a diploma? Because if you're at 7th grade and you're in math and you're 2+ years behind and you're moving into algebra, algebra, geometry, algebra 2, and you haven't gained the foundation on what you indicated before, what is the thought that they'll be able to succeed in that upcoming math and division? I mean, I'm just not seeing how that's possible, how they ever catch up.
I would look at if we can say that the majority of our trend data is trending positive, but relatively, it's not where we want it to be, right? If we assume that, and we look at 9th grade Envision math at the high school last year, geometry, I don't have that in front of me. I printed it out multiple times today.
I don't have it either.
But our ninth grade PSAT score, I want to say they grew, Mr. Heck, you probably have that on. You probably know that off the back of your hand. I think it was like 6 or 7%.
It was on an upward trend.
It was on a significant upward trend, our Math 9 PSAT score. So I understand the question. Math and vision at the high school is in its second year with the phased-in approach. So we're looking forward to seeing those results.
I think the better question would be is that to have our math teachers, because you're trying to correlate being 2 grade levels or more behind to a letter grade and be able to do the work. And so I can't tell you for sure what teachers do in the classroom with students to help get them through that class.
You know, when they're in younger grades, you always seem like there's a possibility, like there's something that's going to go on
It
that's going to
becomes-
cause them. But when you get to middle school and entering to high school, I mean, I'm starting to struggle to see, because all of that cool stuff that you do in elementary school, as far as I know, I don't know how much of that is done at the upper grades.
Do you mean like intervention
Yeah,
wise, or
yeah.
they do still offer interventions?
Probably not to the extent that you all do, though, in elementary.
It looks different.
Yeah.
Yes, and you are correct. The older that you get, if you have lagging skills, it is more difficult to climb out of that the older that the student gets. But I also would, math is a tricky subject to look at sometimes in terms of proficiency, and I equate it to you can have a strength in one area and a weakness in another. Myself personally, I feel very confident in algebra. You put algebra in front of me, I'm going to solve that equation. You put geometry in front of me and I'm helping my daughter with something, and I'm like, oh, I have to think for a minute. So sometimes it is a moment in time and being able to help kids see a connection between one thing to the next, or it is one area that we can say, okay, we drill down, and the reason that that student is not moving out is because there's this domain, this is the spot, and then we're able to hone in on that. So it is difficult to look at and say in this one moment in time, this one data point, whether or not a student is going to be successful for the remainder of their math career.
I was just looking at an overall system perspective, if you had thought about that, like, that was all.
I think it's always, oh,
At the middle school, we have implemented a resource room math class with a special education teacher for kids who are a couple grade levels behind. So that might be a class of a smaller number where it's not a co-taught class, but it's a special education teacher. And some of the kids in that 7th grade math class are testing at a 2nd grade level. Them being successful in that regular traditional middle school classroom wasn't going to work for them. So we revamped the schedule and we're able to do that. Taking the scores that we have from the testing, intervention has been intentional and rigorous, that we're breaking down the domains into, is this a number in operations struggle that a child has? Is it an algebra problem? Is it a geometry problem? And their intervention hours, like again, our schedule was revamped to make sure that any kid who's in the red is in a math intervention.
Okay.
During the school day, it is not after school, because we can't commit to kids being there after school.
Right.
So we had to do something with the schedule to make sure all kids had that time, that we could build it into the schedule. Everyone in our building during 4th hour is in an enrichment, if they're proficient, our green kids, or they're in an intervention based on if they need reading help or they need math help more. So there is intentionality with these numbers and breaking down to each of the domains and placing kids where they need to be.
I know we're about out of time, but on one of our last presentations, we didn't get to middle school, and we were kind of hoping, I know Tom and I talked about it, because you had a big increase in your reading proficiency, and we were just like wanting to know what you did, you know? So it sounds like
Some of our
maybe it's the
teachers,
same
like
thing.
some of our middle school teachers got phonics instruction. As a secondary ELA teacher by trade, I was not taught how to teach kids to read, right? I was taught how to teach kids to analyze, interpret, apply. So when you have kids coming to you in 7th grade that don't have phonetic awareness, or they don't know phonics, that's a struggle. Like, how am I going to help this child? So we have 4 or 5 teachers that have been specifically trained in phonics work, and they have intervention groups with phonics kids. And again, that's somewhat of a struggle, because you have a 13, 14-year-old child that you have to give a book to that looks like I'd be giving to a first or second grader. But because we have them grouped, they're in a, pairing together, like our teachers are killing it. Like they
Yes, they are.
They have bought into the phonics, like this is what our kids need. They have not scoffed at us and said, well, not teaching this, right?
They're open and they say, well, if that's what I have to
This
do,
is
that's what
not
I'm going to do.
was trained
I just
to
remember
do.
seeing the numbers.
They're-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Especially eighth grade.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
just like,
Yep.
we were like,
Yep.
cool,
Very
what
good.
did you do?
Yeah. And I hate to say this, but can I breeze through this next part with you guys? Because I think there's some cool things and some
Yeah,
grade
let's
level
get into
data.
the grade level.
That I just want to make sure that we highlight, and I know we're almost out of time, so I will go quick. But the grade level data with ELA, this is not cohorted, and if it's okay, I'm going to skip over kindergarten just because kindergarten is kind of, it's so dependent on what happens prior. But we do have HMH into reading materials that are in most of our K-5 classrooms right now. So I just want you to take a look at this first grade. This is not the same group of students. This is grade level to grade level. So where students are grade level wise, which is an indicator of what's happening in tier one, what strengths are happening. But I just think it's important to note that as a grade one this year, not only do we have our above grade level and on grade level numbers increasing, but we also have a huge reduction in that more than one grade level below. We only have 7 kids in our entire district that are sitting at more than one grade level below in first grade right now, which would be the kindergarten level. So only 7 of them there. We see our second
Is
grade.
that the same first grade?
It is not. It is grade level. So this is just like as a first grade in our district, what does first grade look like each year? So this is not a cohort because those kids.
Yeah, I understand
But
that,
it's
it
first
would be the
grade.
same kids for grade 1 of 2025 as grade 1 of 2025 over here.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was just looking at the two charts.
Second grade comparison, again, that blue line where HMH is now, we have our students that are growing in that honor grade. On grade nearly has doubled from 2022 to 2025 as a grade level. So we have more students that are on grade level there. Again, we have the below band. It's not expanding dramatically, but we do have it, and we feel that we have the tools that we need to address those students and the needs at that level. Same thing as you look at our third graders. I mean, the third grade has been a point of pride right now. We are the strongest grade level trend line in reading. Our above and on grade level has risen quite a bit. Our 2+ has dropped significantly. If we go back to 2022, I mean, I know we have different numbers of students overall, but there were 70 students sitting in the 2 or more grade levels below. We have 27 there now. And our approaching has declined. However, we can make some inferences that some of those students have moved over into that on grade level band. Grade 4, you see that similar trend as well. Our above and on has increased. We have HMH again in this grade level. Our 1+ below grade level has increased. Our 2+ has decreased. So when you look at that 1 below and you say, oh, but it's now at 59 students, but it was only 26 students last year, but our dark red was 71 students last year and it's only 44 this year. So we are seeing movement with kids. And that has been huge feedback from the program that we see kids moving and responding. Same thing, 5th grade, you'll see similar there as well. We have our above and on grade level increasing since 2022. The 2+ has declined, and our approaching band is pretty stable. In 6th grade, 6, 7, and 8 are also looking at some programs. They are all looking at, it's the other half of into reading, it's into literature. It's from HMH. We have a couple of teachers that are trying some things out at those grade levels. Middle school has just started, but we were there today and had some great feedback from teachers on the program and how they're feeling about it. Our 6th grade teachers that are doing some pilots are giving us some positive feedback as well. We have seen with our 6th graders, you can see our above and on has increased since 2022. Our 2+ below has declined, which does indicate some movement, but we still see, our approaching band remaining stable, and we do still pay attention to those students that are in that below grade level.
You said for
band.
6th grade?
for sixth grade.
It went from 100 to 107.
From last year to this year.
Yeah.
I'm talking back to 2022, if we looked there.
Okay.
Same seventh grade, again, you see this, again, not the same group of kids, so that's why there are some fluctuations in those numbers. So some cohorts of seventh grade were larger than other groups coming in. You do see the decline in the 2 or more grade level bands. And we right now have the highest number of students in our on grade level band, so that 58, than we had since 2022. And in eighth grade, again, I mean, and the trend is there. Like you see with grade level to grade level, even that those lower bands are persistent. And it does, again, reinforce the direction that we're moving with our literacy.
But you could almost draw your line straight down again. I mean, it's straight down. There's variations, but they're very
I mean-
parallel in similarity.
All right, and the same thing then, math, let's get rid of that. And you can cut me off if I'm, all right, so math, first grade to first grade, just showing you again the line where the implementation for Envision came in, just paying attention to where those shifts have happened. We have a decrease in the number of students that are more than one grade level below. We do have then an increase in our students that are on or above grade level that's risen since our implementation for first grade. In second grade, we see a consistent reduction in the number of students performing more than one grade level below since the implementation, and our approaching grade level band has increased, indicating that students have moved from our lowest band into our middle band. Third grade comparison for math, our above and on grade levels have steadily increased since 2022, and students in the 2 or more grade levels below has dropped significantly since 2022. Again, different numbers of students. These are not the same cohorts, grade level to grade level, but when you think about where students are at in the tier 1, we have fewer students that are in that 2 or more grade levels below since implementation. Same thing for fourth grade, that reduction of students in the 2 or more grade levels continues since implementation, and we have the highest number of students that are at or above grade level this year. Keeping in mind then fifth grade, number of students in the 2 or more grade levels again is in the below band is the smallest it's been since 2022. But again, our data suggests that we need to pay close attention to those students in the approaching band to prevent them from sliding to those lower proficiency bands. And the same with sixth grade, it continues to be a grade level. We do see the larger numbers of students in the 2 or more grade levels below. We see that movement may happen within those bands, but it's not as steady as we'd like to see across bands. And so that data suggests that we do need to closely examine the alignment between our grades 5 and 6, which we are doing. In the seventh grade, in seventh grade, remember, they are only, their line shifts a little bit. So their first implementation was last school year. Since that implementation, we do see a reduction in the number of students in the 2 or more grade levels below, 133 to 99. There's some upward movement that exists. It is a bit uneven though with the group. So it again reinforces that importance of identifying where those gaps are prior to seventh grade in order to provide that proactive intervention at the K-6 level.
Yeah, because it's interesting when you look at the data, I'm just going to call green screens. You know, where there's 36, my math is 41, 55, and then 46.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then with eighth grade, I think, this is something to point out, especially with this year, when we looked back at that cohort, the challenges that we see in eighth grade didn't begin in middle school. Like, it's not just that these challenges were there. They were present when this group was in upper L. The gaps then again have compounded over time. Concepts have become more abstract. And so while we do see some growth occurring, it's not at the pace of those rising expectations. Does not mean, though, that they're not being targeted. And there is certainly some wonderful work. I mean, you heard Angela talk about how students are being placed into those classes. So we are really examining it closely. And again, those eighth grade students, it is only the second year at the middle school. Oops, I went back a slide. So, woo. All right, so that is, I know I took you right up to your end time, so I apologize.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I was gonna comment just for a second. This compact, this goes with
People
what
won't be
Andrew
able to
was saying.
hear you. I'm sorry.
Let me.
This goes with what Andrew was saying. I know we're running long, but I think it was kind of important to say, like Orchard Center High School has the same problems that middle school has, is that elementary has as far as students coming in their multiple grade levels below. And so some of the things that our high school is doing is we're teaming with the ISD. We have 2 specialists that come in, and this is for the English right now. We're focused on that for literacy because we believe that literacy can compound over to the math program. Like Kevin Ryan's our full-time English teacher, and then we have a half-time sort of person. Kevin's working with ISD, working with our school improvement coach, working with our interventionist, and really he's doing a lot of focusing on these lower level reading skills because our students are there. So we are recognizing it overall as a district that that's a group of kids that are struggling and that we need to target them. And the way part of doing that is helping the teachers like Kevin's, honestly, and Kevin probably will be okay if I said this, he's nervous about that a little bit because he hasn't been necessarily trained in teaching lower level elementary skills, but he's jumping into it. And we have support for him, and we're kind of excited about what we can do with that. And we also have a foundation year students, the 8th graders. They're taking some foundation level English and math, and we've talked about what the foundation year is in the past, and they're getting those skills. So we're all adjusting to it at multiple levels. And I just wanted to add on to what you had said.
That makes sense based on the earlier conversation we had, because what interventions are there at the upper grades to help them move through? And you just identified a very real thing. At that level, if they're 2, 3, 4, 5 years behind, the same interventions at a high school student, they're going to need the elementary school. That was a really good point. Thanks for sharing.
And we have reading intervention, pulls kids out regularly, tests them and works with them, and then she pushes in too, so.
Sounds like middle school's doing
Yeah,
too.
it's a team effort, and they do a great job there, for sure.
Thank you for sharing that.
yeah, thanks, Andrea. Look forward to seeing the trimester 3 data. I think that's more important.
She will be back in April because we'll have that second trimester in the books, and she'll be back in April to go over that data.
Okay.
That's all we have today.
Brian, do we have any public commentary? Okay. That concludes our agenda. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
We have support?
Support.
Show of hands. Monroe Public Schools Board of Education work session for Tuesday, February 10th, 2026 is adjourned. The time is 7:02. We can take about a 5-minute break and then start the work session.